Duke reviews Tyranny. Now, for those of you who only watch my videos for the first 30 seconds and then leave, Tyranny's a good game. Get it on sale. Alright, this is a game made by Obsidian and Paradox, and RPGs are all Obsidian does, and the only thing that Paradox does is ridiculous DLC policies. So it's a decent RPG, it has all the decent RPG things like character stats, combat, and conversations, lots and lots of conversations, skills that are really necessary. Um, Subterfuge, athletics, and lore, that's all you need. If you have like high points in those skills, you're golden for the entire game. You will not have a single challenge in dialogue. And then there's the combat. Combat is the product of someone saying, how can we maximize, how can we get people to spend more time in this game? And another person said, let's have the people pause in the middle of combat to queue up attacks. And the other guy was like, that's great. You know what? You know how we can improve on that? Let's make them only queue up one attack at a time. Now, honestly, I don't know if it was if it was just me. I couldn't figure out how to queue up more than one attack. I read somewhere that there was a way that if you held shift and if you slew a baby goat and drew a pentagram on the ground, that you could queue up two attacks, but I never figured that out. So that's basically combat. There's also there's no karma system. Like in Fallout, you have karma. Like if you steal from someone, you lose karma, and then they hate you, and they steal it back. And there's none of that. Instead, there's Sacred Wrath, which is sort of how much butt kissing you've done to a certain faction, and the story revolves around. Now, that's an interesting sort of way to go, since it's like, okay, there's no good and bad to the story. There's no good decisions. There's no bad decisions. It's sort of based on your own moral compass, which is interesting. It's an interesting route to take a game instead of, like, if you feel like you want to kick puppies, and that's perfectly okay in the moral compass, you can kick puppies, but you know what? There's a faction that doesn't like that. And that's sort of basically the way the story goes. There's three different factions. The guy on the left, the guy on the right, and the associated rebel faction of volunteers. Now, I didn't side with any of them. I didn't like the guy on the right because he was too rigid. I didn't like the guy on the left because if you weren't crazy enough, if you had something sane, he didn't like that either. And I didn't like the rebel factions because they were 99.99999% of the problems were caused by them. So I just said, screw all of you guys, and I killed them all. And that's sort of the way the story was. Now, yes, of course, there's replayability because there's 4 different paths you can choose. But the way the story is, it's just basically kissing up and getting your nose brown for one of the factions. You kiss up to the guy on the left, the guy on the right, and the associated rebels hate you. And that's the way the story's gonna go. Well, you can kiss up to the guy on the right, the guy on the left's gonna hate you, and the rebels are gonna hate you, depending on what you do to the rebels. If you're sort of nice to them, I guess they sort of won't hate you, but you're siding with the guy on the right. If you side with the rebels, these 2 guys hate you, the entire empire hates you, and good luck. So that's basically the story. It's really linear. Honestly, and I thought I had the most like free-forming playthrough. I could choose whoever to like side with. I could do whatever the hell I wanted to. Okay, and I still thought the story was linear, just killing everybody, which is what I did. I killed everyone. I was like, hey, I rolled up into a place and I was like, this sucker's mine. And they're like, oh heck no. And I had to fight twice as more people, which is great. Nothing like a little bloodshed. Anyways, story's linear, and for an RPG, the places you go in an RPG make or break the game. If there's not a whole lot of places to go, there's not a whole lot of things to do, not a whole lot of side quests, and that's sort of what this game was. I can count the number of places, the number of there's like 4 major places where you can go, and they all have some different places, and there's not a whole lot to do side quest wise either. Now, for the low price of $6, you can buy more quests, and for the also low price of $14, you can buy more side quests. It's pretty okay. Don't get it. Don't buy it full price. You're gonna be wasting your money. There's not enough in the game to justify a full price. And also, I mentioned this earlier, that if you want more quests and stuff, you have to pay for it. Well, you also have to pay for basic gameplay mechanics too. Thanks, Paradox. Like random encounters. You can go 4 days without being accosted. It's a great game. I like the game. I like the story. I like sort of the moral ambiguity. That was interesting, though really it was a missed opportunity. There wasn't a whole lot of um, pushing, exploring that theme of moral ambiguity. It's basically, as far as it goes, whatever your moral compass says, and then whatever faction doesn't hate you now. The soundtrack's good. Uh, it's almost like they blew too much money on the soundtrack, and they didn't spend enough on the rest of the game. Honestly, that's what it was. The graphics are mediocre at best, and that's Tyranny. Uh, pretty average. It's a pretty generic RPG. It does something a little different with the morality system, and that's that.